Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Angus Clark. I play guitar for Trans-Siberian Orchestra and other artists like Cher and Kitaro. On this episode, I'll take you through my solution for getting a great sound without an amp or through an amp on short hop travel dates. Let's get into it. If you're aware of the gigs I do, you know I work on some big production shows. On those gigs, my guitar rig is meant to serve the broader goals of the production. It travels well, sounds the same every night, easy to set up and tear down. I use a direct processor for those gigs, no amps. The gear travels in a rack on a truck and is maintained entirely by my tech. But I do other gigs that are either fly dates or drive dates. I play for Broadway's Rock of Ages Band, which is a concert performance of tunes from the Broadway show. I also play for a couple of Queen tribute acts, and I do corporate dates with my company's song division. Sometimes these dates are backlined with amps and I bring a traditional pedal board, but a lot of the time it's either mandated or preferred that I run direct. So I put together a pedal board for that purpose, and I built it around the Fractal Audio System's FM3. I've been using Fractal gear with the TSO for over 10 years, ever since my former tech, Chad Zamish, who is also James Hetfield's tech, brought one in for me to AB with my analog rig, which was based around an EVH 5150 Mark III. We switched over to the Fractal at that time and we haven't looked back, so I'm comfortable with the tones and the operating system. And I stuck with Fractal for this pedal board even though the FM3 has a couple of serious limitations. It doesn't have a built-in expression pedal, and it only has 3 foot switches. I went with the FM3 versus the FM9 because the FM9 is huge and I like to travel light. The FM3's design is really clever and you can do just about anything you need with just the 3 foot switches by using press and hold functions, which you can even customize to your liking. In putting this together, I sought out the help of my friend Leon Todd, who does a bunch of YouTube tutorials about using Fractal gear and specifically the FM3. His assistance was invaluable, and if you're looking for any tips on working with Fractal gear, just go to his channel and search it up. He's probably got the answer you're looking for. There are 2 ways to control the FM3 via external foot switches, the expression pedal inputs and MIDI. I'm going to use one of the expression pedal inputs for, you guessed it, an expression pedal for volume and wah-wah effects. Now for the second expression pedal input, I'm going to use a 2-button foot switch. There are a bunch on the market, but the Mission Audio looked like the most compact and solid of the bunch, so I got that. Then for the MIDI input, I went with Disaster Area Designs, which makes a tidy little 3-button foot switch called the MIDI Baby 3. The MIDI Baby 3 is programmable and it's really well designed in that the middle foot switch is taller than the outside ones, so you can hit the one in the middle without accidentally stepping on the side switches. Last piece of the puzzle is the board itself, and at this point I went full Goldilocks. I wanted it to be just right, the determining factor being the size of the bag I wanted to carry it in. So I laid all the pedals out and I got the measurements and I started looking around. Quick tip right here, the best way to mount a Fractal floorboard to a pedal board is to remove the rubber end caps and feet. Just make sure not to block the side vents and the bottom vent however you mount it, and do not remove the handles as they protect the screen, the knobs, and the buttons. But even with the end caps and the feet removed, the FM3 is a tall pedal. So I wanted a board that was completely flat on which to mount it. So I found this website for a company called the Custom District. They make boards out of perforated metal. So this is kind of like the top of a temple board. It's just, it has bigger holes and the metal is sturdier. The perforation means there's no issue regarding the underside vent on the FM3. The board is sturdy and light with a really low profile, but they don't make the exact dimensions I wanted as a standard board. So I reached out to them. I asked them if they could make a custom size with no handles, because they ordinarily come with handles. And they said yes. They quoted me a price for it, which I gladly paid. So Custom District has a proprietary mounting system like Temple uses, but I just went with dual lock because I've moved all my boards over to dual lock. If you're not hip to dual lock, it's like Velcro, but both sides are the plastic hooks. There's no carpet side. There are different grades. There's a heavy duty kind that tour techs use, which adds a lot of height. And then there's a light duty that doesn't grip enough. And then there's medium duty, and that's the kind I'm using. I'll put a link in the description. So why was I so picky about the size? Let me show you. Let's say I needed to take this rehearsal in the city on the train. I live outside New York City. I have this Voodoo Labs pedalboard bag and I just wanted it to fit in that. So that was kind of like the guiding measurement. When if I go on a fly date, I want it to fit in this Pelican case where I use some additional foam to secure it in place. And there's still room for power cables and instrument cables. There's even room for clothes. And then if I have a longer trip where I need more clothes and whatnot, I can put the pedal board in the voodoo bag. I can put the voodoo bag in my larger suitcase and I'm all set. The Mini Baby 3 and the Mission Audio 2-button foot switches are mounted to a pedal train booster that's then mounted on top of the board. And that gets them up to the height that matches the FM3. And there's just enough room on the board to fit my Shure wireless receiver. The wireless transmitter has a lithium battery in it, so it travels in a separate case that goes with me on the plane. All of the cables I used are flat, and I didn't do any sort of power consolidation. I just ran the 3 power cables to a power strip off the board. So how does this all work? Well, the foot switches on the FM3 default to 3 basic views. Preset, where you're picking presets, scenes, where you're picking the scene, or direct access, where you're turning effect boxes on and off. Now, I like to use just one preset for a whole gig, and I just want to pick scenes. So I mainly want scene view, but I want the option to go to direct access. So I'm going to put the view select function on one of the buttons of the Mission foot switch. Now, since I'm not going to use preset view on the FM3, I need some way to navigate through the presets. So I'll put the preset up and preset down buttons on the 2 outside switches on the Mini Baby 3. Now I also need a way to access the tuner on the FM3 and a tap tempo button, so I'm going to put those on the middle button on the Mini Baby 3, where I can tap to set tempo or I can press and hold to access tuner mode. That leaves me with the second button on the Mission foot switch. So what I decided to do was to make it a direct access switch assigned strictly to the Graphic EQ 2 block. And I insert that block into all of my presets and make it a 3 dB boost. The tricky thing there is that I can't see the current state of the block on the preset, but if I hit the switch, it tells me what's going on momentarily. So that's just a boost on any sound. It's just bam, I get 3 dB boost by hitting that switch. The expression pedal will normally not be engaged. I don't use a volume pedal that often, and if I put a wah block in a preset, the default is whenever the pedal is static in the toe down position, it turns off. It turns off in the toe down position so that if I do switch to a preset that uses a volume block, I don't suddenly lose my sound. Now I've used this successfully on a number of gigs. Rock of Ages, One Vision with Queen with Mark Martel, the Ultimate Queen Celebration with Yvonne Pedneau, numerous corporates, and I've used it with the Seymour Duncan Power Stage to power cabinets, and I've used it direct. Funny thing with the Queen tributes, one of the singers, Yvonne, needs certain songs transposed. So I used the virtual capo in the FM3 and it works awesome. Then with Mark Martel, there's no stage cabs, but with Yvonne, they backline 2 AC30s. And I was like, I'm going to use the AC30s. So I unplugged the speakers inside the amps and used a stereo power stage in order to send the FM3 to the cabs. I have my presets set up so that the XLR outputs go straight to the PA and the 1/4 inch outputs can go to guitar cabs. For the guitar cabs, I bypass the speaker block, but I insert an EQ block to sculpt the tone to make it work with the cab. There's also a universal EQ on the FM3 for each output so that if the PA or the cabs need an additional tweak, I can do that and it goes across all presets. I'm going to do some playing clips where you can see me stepping on the board and see how I basically use it in a live context, and you can hear what it sounds like. you have it. If you're doing flight 8s and so forth, this may give you some idea on how to downsize your gear. I love seeing players with mammoth pedal boards, but it's just not for me. Let me know what you think of the tones. Let me know what you think of the design ideas, and let me know if you have any questions. Until next time, I'm Angus Clark. Thanks for watching.